it's Leslie Ravenscroft again, SEN Coordinator at William Brooks School. This video is all about testing for dyslexia at William Brooks. What is dyslexia? Dyslexia is very complicated. It's rather like a cold. Where you might have a cold with a runny nose and a headache, I might have a cold with a really bad cough. So dyslexia affects different people in different ways, and there's a cluster of symptoms that can come out as dyslexia. Dyslexia Action says it's a hidden disability that affects approximately 10% of the population. It primarily affects the skills involved in accurate and fluent word reading and spelling. Characteristics of dyslexia can include difficulties in areas such as sound awareness, verbal memory, and processing speed. Most people agree now that dyslexia is genetic in origin and is defined by a lack of sound awareness. The international criteria for diagnosis say children with dyslexia have normal eyesight and average or above intelligence, but they have difficulty in interpreting spoken language and writing. Some conditions hide as dyslexia. It's worthwhile seeing if your child has any of the following before you consider dyslexia. Sometimes intermittent deafness can cause problems picking up sound spellings because they literally don't hear the sounds. Some people are sensitive to white pigments in paper. This is known as scotopic sensitivity syndrome and can make the words appear to move or be blurred or even lack spaces between them. You can also have issues with visual behaviour. This must be diagnosed by an optometrist, not a usual optician. Sometimes students just aren't interested in reading, and if they don't read for about 20 minutes a day at school age, they're likely to fall behind. Poor working memory is also a big problem that masquerades as dyslexia. At William Brooks School, parents who are concerned that their child might have dyslexia find out, first of all, whether there are any other causes, such as hearing. And they also make sure that their child reads regularly to them at home. If that doesn't work, they ask me, Elle Ravenscroft, to do a dyslexia screening test. This test takes about 30 minutes. Many children are found not to be at risk, and there is another underlying problem, such as working memory. If the child is found to be at risk, specialist support is usually given. This is usually 30 minutes one-to-one per week with a dyslexia specialist. The child is asked to transfer these skills to their other subjects, and obviously there's a careful balance between what lessons we take children out of and how much they're going to gain from this 30-minute support. If the child continues to make no progress, we look for a referral to the educational psychologist, and they give us advice. At William Brooks School, we use the Dyslexia Screening Test, secondary version. This was developed at Sheffield University by Angela Fawcett and Rod Nicholson. It's published by Harcourt Assessment and is what's known as a standardised test. This means the scores are based on thousands of trials up and down the country to see what the average score should be for each age group. An at-risk quotient of 1 or over means that the candidate is at risk of dyslexia. It's actually a series of 12 subtests. Test 1 is rapid naming. People with dyslexia often find this really difficult. It looks at accessing long-term memory under pressure. Candidates are asked to name familiar items such as dog, boat, socks, flowers in 1 minute. Bead threading. People with dyslexia often have some problems with coordination. Candidates are asked to thread large wooden beads onto a string in 30 seconds. 1 minute reading. People with dyslexia can have problems accessing visual words in their memory under pressure. In this test, a candidate is asked to read from a list of words in 1 minute. Postural stability. People with dyslexia can have balance difficulties due to problems in their brain. This test asks the candidate to stand up straight and blindfolded while receiving and resisting a small push in the small of the back. Then they're asked to stand with their arms outstretched like a sleepwalker and resist a small push in the back. If they sway, this is unusual at children of secondary age. Sound sense. Sound sense is the core difficulty that British Dyslexia Association uses to define dyslexia. This subtest asks the candidate to identify sounds that make up words. Spoonerisms. This subtest asks the candidate to manipulate the sounds that make up words. This is so hard for people with dyslexia. So, for instance, if I said car park, they would be required to say park. 2 minutes spelling. This is just an ordinary spelling test, but it's in 2 minutes, so the candidate is under time pressure yet again. Backwards digit span. This test tests working memory. People with dyslexia can have problems keeping information in their working memory. It asks candidate to recall number in reverse order. So if I say 614, they have to say 416. Nonsense passage reading. People with dyslexia rely heavily on visual strategies. In this subtest, the candidate is forced to use sounding out because it's got nonsense words in which the candidate will not have seen before. "Good lub," said Dix. "Shall we go kenningly?" 1 minute writing. This test is designed to test the candidate's speed of writing. They transcribe a passage in 1 minute, once again putting them under time pressure. The next two tests are paired together: verbal fluency and semantic fluency. In the verbal fluency, candidates must name as many things as they can in 1 minute that begin with the letter S. In semantic fluency, candidate must name as many things as they can in 1 minute that are animals. A typical dyslexic profile would have a low number for subtest 10 and a much higher number for subtest 11. Usually, subtest 10 is about half the amount of subtest 11. Test 12 is a non-verbal intelligence test. We don't tend to use this. All the test subscores are compared to the average scores for that age group. We add up the scores. If the student scores 1 or higher, then there is a diagnosis of dyslexia. If they score less than 1, there is not.